What a total screw you Vice was. It insulted my intelligence by acting like a smart and snappy piece of film, but it ended up being an unfocused mess that doesn't really tell us anything mind-blowing about Dick Cheney. The filmmaking style and editing is reminiscent of Adam McKay's previous film, The Big Short, but this time it felt gimmicky instead of measured. The performances by Christian Bale, Amy Adams, and Steve Carell were the best parts of this movie, but those alone don't save this film. The timeline of this movie is kind of screwed up at first. It switches from a safe room during 9/11 to 1963 in Casper, Wyoming. Dick Cheney, played by Christian Bale, isn't too unlike George W. Bush in the sense that he was a drunk before his soon-to-be wife, Lynn, played by Amy Adams, tells him to shape up after receiving his second DUI. Then the timeline becomes more consistent and easier to follow as the movie settles into its groove. It goes from the 1960s to the 2010s, but it doesn't really say anything about what he does during this time. It's like looking at an enhanced LinkedIn profile in motion. He gets this job and here are his struggles. Go knock yourself out. I didn't think this movie had any revelatory moments about Dick Cheney. I didn't learn anything new or significant about him. It does an abysmal job explaining how Cheney shaped history. The main thing seems to be that the Iraq War was stupid and it caused a power vacuum when Saddam Hussein was taken out. But all the events leading up to that moment don't really give us a clear idea on why he would push that war with questionable intel other than corporate interests. Those possible business ties with the oil industry are not further explored. I was so done with Vice before the real credits roll. Yeah, there's a fake epilogue and credits segment when it acts like in the mid-90s that Cheney retired from politics with his golden retrievers, love of fishing, and being the CEO of Halliburton. This was a go screw yourself moment. The Shakespearean dialogue between Dick and Lynn Cheney was just weird. It wasn't even funny, it was just awkward. It's how Adam McKay explains why Cheney took the job of being W's vice president. It's admitted that there's no real answer, so this literal dramatization of what might have happened just bangs McKay's gimmicks on the audience's heads for the umpteenth time at this point in the film. Adam McKay's directorial style this time around is as subtle as a gun in an airport. This is the second time that he has made a movie about a subject that people should be furious about once it's all explained in the cinematic form. However, the anger is fully realized and understandable in The Big Short. The anger in Vice is misguided and is like an undercooked thesis. I understand that the things that happened in the movie are true, but we're not given enough information to see it make any logical sense. I'm sure McKay knows a lot about Cheney by now, but if that information is not presented well, then it's like dressed up garbage. It's not like I'm going to vet Adam McKay's research, but I'm just not convinced of his thesis. When you watch this, there's a feeling that something doesn't add up. Why does Cheney all of a sudden want to dispose of Saddam when he didn't in the Gulf War as the Secretary of Defense under George H.W. Bush? The film glosses over that point in history. The performances from Christian Bale, Amy Adams, and Steve Carell were the highlights of this movie. They don't disappoint, but the script lets them down. It doesn't let them shine wholly on their own because of all the stylizations that McKay utilizes. Bale definitely had Cheney's voice down, as evidenced by the small video clip that plays near the end of the film, which shows the real Cheney. He literally gained weight for this role, and he doesn't overact the heart attacks that Cheney has. It's pretty calm and funny the way he plays it, because it's like, whoop, there it is again, and I think it's a testament to Cheney's cool and silent demeanor. I honestly wish that this would be one of my favorite performances from Christian Bale, but all of the noise that McKay puts on screen drowns Bale out. Bale's brooding and pensiveness nails the characterization of Cheney. Amy Adams does a great job as Lynn Cheney. And I like how much she owns her character. She had the right amount of sensitivity, toughness, and awareness. Her character motivates Dick to become somebody, and she helps his House of Representatives campaign. She made it apparent that it was hard for women to be somebody in her time, so she recognized that she had to do it through her husband. Steve Carell plays a good Donald Rumsfeld. He's gung-ho and best buds with Dick. I wish their friendship was further explored. I could see why Rumsfeld liked Cheney because of his silent demeanor, and why Cheney liked Rumsfeld because of his decisiveness and mentorship. It was made apparent as to why Rumsfeld was for the war, since you could see that war hawk personality throughout the years leading up to the Bush administration in the 2000s. Sam Rockwell gets the W voice right, and with hair and makeup, he looks like the former president. I don't think his portrayal of the president was as complete as it should have been. It was more like an impression. Tyler Perry as Colin Powell was surprisingly good. I mean, he's mostly known for being Medea, but I like how he plays the former Secretary of State. Stern and completely how I would imagine the real person is. The narration was alright. It works for The Big Short because the finance world is meant to be confusing enough. McKay's cinematic style is frustrating. It has style, but it lacks substance. It's just noise that makes little sense. This movie displays McKay's smugness. It's a love child between Michael Moore and Oliver Stone, but it fails to achieve the effectiveness of either director. For the former, it contains documentary film elements and a pervasive point of view, but Vice lacks a strong thesis to convince a viewer of what they're watching is in fact what happened. As for Oliver Stone, it tries to create a great film with emotional dialogue that convinces you what is on screen is the truth, but Vice fizzles. Do yourself a favor, don't watch Vice. And if you do, there's no shame in turning it off when you get annoyed by the choppiness of the editing or how obvious the metaphors McKay puts on screen are. Although the performances are pretty good, they aren't enough to save this snickering film because it's not laughing with you, it's laughing at you. At the very least, Adam McKay tried rather than just play it safe, but he failed miserably.